Thank you very much, and good afternoon. My name is Antonio Avenoso. I represent the European Transport Safety Council in Brussels. European Transport Safety Council is a Brussels-based, independent, non-governmental organization which was created in 1993, 25 years ago, and Barry was among the founders of the organization. I need to warn you, I'm not a researcher, and I think I'm the first one not to be a researcher today amongst the speakers, but given that we work a lot with researchers, you are my ideal colleagues, because I always say that the role of ETSC is to act as a translator. We take your research, we try and understand it, and then we go and talk to policymakers, and we make sure that they apply, or at least we try. These are some of the areas we're working on, and basically a bit all areas of road safety. We work on speed, on alcohol, on infrastructure, on drugs, on work related to road safety, on speed, and most important of them is the top one on the left on monitoring EU and national, I should have, transport safety policy. This is the number of deaths that were killed as a consequence of road collisions in the European Union in 2016. I know this dwarfs when it's much smaller when compared to the global figures, but still for the territory of the European Union this is enormous, and we always say that it is like a fully loaded jumbo jet every 2 days, which is indeed unacceptable. And we have a target in the European Union to reduce by half the number of road deaths between 2010 and 2020. The dotted line shows where we should be right now, while the solid line shows the sad reality of where we are, with the last 3 years that have seen either an increase or stagnation or a small decrease. We can show it in different terms with a breakdown for the different countries of the European Union. You see that in the period 2010-2016, the reduction for the EU 28 on average has been 19%, while if we were to be on track for reaching the target, we should have been doing minus 34%. And only 3 countries, namely Portugal, Lithuania and Greece, managed to have a reduction which is basically on line with reaching the 2020 targets. This is the road mortality for 2016 in color with 2010 as a comparison. You can see that number of deaths per million population have been going down, but what is most important, we have also managed to, even though slightly, reduce the gap between the best performing country and the worst performing country. Nonetheless, the situation in the European Union is still a patchwork of performance in terms of road safety. There are articles of the treaty talking about social cohesion. Well, we show here that in some areas this social cohesion has for the moment failed, because it is unacceptable that moving from one country of the European Union to the other, you move from dark green to which are the safest countries, to red, which are the countries where the levels of road deaths are substantially lower. And so far I've just talked about road deaths. We should not neglect, and we have not neglected within the European Transport Safety Council the importance of those who are seriously injured. Up to 2014, we didn't even have a definition at European level, which has eventually been agreed in 2014. And actually, this figure on the screen is highly underestimated. It's a figure by the European Commission, which takes into account only those countries that are already providing data on the basis of the new definition. I was also asked to talk about some challenges for the future. I realized I should have talked for hours, so I decided to only quickly concentrate on 4 of them. What are the challenges for the European Union in the years to come? I would start with the importance of vulnerable road users. You see from the pie that the percentage share of overall EU road deaths that are vulnerable, including also power two-wheelers, is substantial. They are overrepresented, and most importantly, and we don't see this in this graph, they have been improving their levels of safety at a much lower pace than has happened for those who are in the vehicle. And there are opportunities for the European Union to improve the safety of vulnerable road users, starting with infrastructure. On the 2nd of May, the the Commission is supposed to publish a new package of road safety measures. This will include also the Infrastructure Safety Management Directive, a revision to this directive. The problem so far with this directive is that it only applies to the trans-European network. That is the safest network of all the roads in the European Union, which is, to use an analogy, like giving an antibiotic to somebody who is already quite well in health. And we hope that the revision in the Road Safety Management Infrastructure Safety Management Directive will help us to extend it to the rural roads that are the main problem, but also in the main urban areas with vulnerable road users in mind. But where the biggest opportunity lies for vulnerable road users in vehicle safety, in the same package of measures, we will have a revision of the General Safety Directive, so that directive that General Safety Regulation, which tells us how vehicles should be built in the European Union, and the pedestrian safety regulation. There will be an opportunity to redesign car fronts to include the cyclist protection and improve also the protection of pedestrians. We will eventually have intelligent speed assistance, and this is already been mentioned this morning by Christer. The intelligent speed assistance that we should see in the package is not the advisory intelligent speed assistance, which is nowadays basically, I would say, in all vehicles already, but is an intelligent speed assistance that helps the driver to respect the speed limit. And in order to override it, you can still override it, but in order to do so, well, you need to be determined to do so. You need a hard pressure on the accelerator pedal. And we will have legislation on automated emergency braking. And important as well, when it comes to heavy goods vehicles, the redesigning of the truck cabins to improve direct visions for pedestrians and cyclists, and standardized alcohol interlock interfaces for all vehicles, not just for heavy-duty vehicles. Second challenge for the European Union in the years to come is automated vehicles. And here we tend to be, as ETSC, attentive to what is going on, but also a little bit skeptical about the potential of automated vehicles to save lives in the next 20 to 30 years. We hear a lot about the potential of automated vehicles to help us to reach the Vision Zero in 2050, to minimize human error, to support those high-risk groups that may need them. But what we would like to hear more is about regulation. So far, the same regulation applies to horse carriage in the European Union, but also to a normal vehicle that was manufactured in the 1980s, or to a vehicle that comes out of the factory now, to the autopilot system of the Tesla. So it is important that we take into account what automated vehicles will change in terms of of the way regulations need to be considered. And also, these are areas that need to be taken into account: new collision types, the interaction between automated and non-automated, interaction with vulnerable road users and infrastructure. And until we reach level 5 of automation, the importance of driver engagement and disengagement and re-engagement. I'm managing 1 minute. Third priority is traffic injuries. This is something I've mentioned already, and we need to also look at what is below the tip of the iceberg. We are delighted that after a long campaign that ETSC has carried on the safety of vulnerable road users, that has led us to see the Commissioner for Transport, the President of the European Commission, and eventually even the Pope, we managed to convince the European Commission of the importance of having, for the period 2020-2030, not only a target on road deaths, but also on serious injuries. And last element that I would like to mention is that the European Commission is going to work in the years ahead in the new strategy on with the help of performance indicators and also to link to what Ian was saying before, we will also probably have one performance indicators on post-impact care, but that will be a challenge for those who will have to work on such a performance indicator. What really can be a performance indicator for post-impact care? And this is the way I would like to finish with a question to the audience to help us and to help the Commission in identifying what this performance indicator could be. Thank you very much.